Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Your Voice, Your Vote, which is being presented this evening by the local NAACP and the Longview Area Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance. We will begin this evening by asking you to stand. We will have our Pledge of Allegiance by Beckett Cox, followed by a solo by Minister John Smith III. Please remain standing for the solo, and then we will have prayer by Jada Owens.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. This song, Lift Up Your Voice and Sing, was written by James Weldon Johnson in 1907, and it's been known as the National Black Anthem. I will attempt to do this song for you this evening. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, built in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Our prayer by Jada Owens.
Thank you. May I bow your heads? Dear Lord, dear God, thank you for waking us this morning and allowing us to do our things that we need to do, going to school, going to work, doing other things that you need to do. And allow your angels to watch over us and allow us to do things that we need to be done and said. And thank God for those people that got here safely and allow them to go back home safely. And whatever is shared, that they listen to it. In the name of Jesus, amen.
You may be seated. At this time, we will have our welcome by Sister Sophia Brewer.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's presentation of Your Voice and Your Vote. We, the local units of the NAACP, think it is important for citizens to be informed about various things that we will vote on at the city level and at the state level. Some of the things won't be voted on, and they will be not voted on by the citizens, but by the state legislators, and citizens need to be informed about all of these things because they are very likely going to be affecting us all for the posterity for years to come. So, let's give our undivided attention to each of tonight's meetings, and let's see if you're better informed about these important issues. Thank you. And for anyone who is currently not registered to vote, you can get registered tonight at the table for the NAACP. Thank you.
I was asked by Minister Rudolph about a month ago if I would be mistress of ceremony for this occasion, and I instantly told him no because those of you who know me know how shy I am. And he called me back, and we talked. I am not shy. But anyway, he called me back, and I told him I would. And so at this time, we will have a statement of our purpose as to why we are gathered here tonight from one of our organizers, Minister Derek Rudolph.
I would like to say good evening to everyone for you being here on today. The purpose for this is to inform the precinct. The purpose for this, it has nothing to do with Republicans or Democrats. It has to do with the people being informed on what's going on. So I thank you for coming on this day.
At this time, we would like to recognize all elected officials. Will all elected officials please stand? Elected officials. Thank you for coming. Now at this time, all candidates that are running for office, please come to the mic. If you're running for office, introduce yourself, and you have 2 minutes to tell us about yourself and what you're running for. All candidates who are running for office. Come on down. Now, I'm the shy one.
Ladies first. Good evening, everyone. To the coordinator, Minister Rudolph, to the LAIMA and NAACP, thank you for organizing this event tonight to be able to provide information to inform the people, the constituents in the community. My name is Chandler Lois Jenkins. Many of you all know who I am because I've worked with several of you all. And I am currently a candidate running for the LISD School Board Place 5. I am a community advocate, as well as I'm an experienced leader, as well as I'm an engager. I'm a person that likes to be within the community, around the community, and with the people to be able to keep everybody informed. I'm a person who's about the values of helping all, keeping everybody informed, and getting us to problem solutions to be able to solve. So voting is coming up. It is very near in the future. I ask that each and every one of you all get out and vote because it's very important. Voting is what a lot of our ancestors have died for, they bled for, and so now is our opportunity to be able to get out there and continue to keep their dream alive and not allow it to go into vain. So when that time comes, make informative decisions. Think about what we have available on the ballot. Please get the information and resources available and let it be known that you do have a voice and it does matter and it does make a difference. Again, my name is Chandler Jenkins. I'm running for school board, place 5. Like I said, I'm an experienced leader. I'm within the community every day, and I'm going to be the one to be able to work for you to be able to get the job done. Thank you.
I'm a Southern fella, so I'm gonna let these ladies go first.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shannon Moore. I'm a resident of District 2, and I will be running for District 2 City Council. It's important to me because I've been born, raised in Longview most of my life in District 2, and I want my voice to be heard from somebody who's actually been here, knows from ground up what it's like to be in District 2. The most important thing that we can focus on right now is getting everybody out to register to vote. That is the job. That is our job right now. If y'all don't come out and register to vote, we have no chance in letting our voices be heard. So with that being said, that's what's important to me right now, is getting everybody out to register to vote so our true voices can be heard from our community.
Good evening. How's everyone doing? That's good, that's good. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Latifah Pruitt. I am a mother of 2 of LISD. I also grew up in Place 5. I went to Head Start, used to be on Cotton Street. I'm telling my age now. But I also went to JL Everhart when it was pre-K. Went over to Hudson Pep. From Hudson Pep, went to be the Mighty Foster Dragons. I was the mascot there. I'm very proud of that. And then went on to Longview High School. My daughter's, she's a senior. My oldest daughter is a senior. And she, it has all these dual credits, right? But then she just told me last night, because she's also in the culinary program, that she's thinking about going overseas and doing that. So I was like, okay, baby. But anyway, she's in theater as well. And then I have my youngest daughter, Nima, here. She's at Hudson Pep, and she is the next Simone Biles. But anyway, so needless to say, I'm a proud candidate who represents Place 5, who would represent Place 5. Now, my motto is education is the key. When I say that, that means that there's a lot of things working together for education to be the key, okay? I am very concerned about the emotional state and the mental state of our children and our faculty because they've been through so much. And the way that a person receives education is directly linked to their emotional well-being. I'm also concerned about community involvement. I would love for the community to be at these meetings because children need to know that we care, whether if you're a parent or if your children have graduated or you may not even have children there. It's good to see, children need to see that the community is involved. And another thing, and my last thing I'll mention, is that it is imperative that we get started with educating our children early on. I know in the bond is included about the Early Childhood Development Center, and that is so critical that we get started with educating our children quickly and as soon as possible. Education is the key. I'm Latifa Pruitt, and thank you for your time.
Well, what in the world do you say after these ladies have spoke so eloquently? I am Darrell Gregg. I am your constable, Precinct 4. I thank you. You guys elected me back in 2022. I remember that correctly. 2021, the end of 2021, 2022. I am a lifelong resident of Longview, Precinct 4. I grew up on Ware Street, where some of you knew me as a baby. I see Rhonda, I see Nona, even Shamla and Latifa. You know, we've all grown up together in this community. I started out in my profession as a Longview police officer, in which I achieved several different things. I was a SWAT officer for Longview. I was a school resource officer for Longview. I worked patrol for Longview. I did several things, several facets of law enforcement that I participated in. And then I decided that, well, I wanted to dive into the entrepreneurial world. And I left the police department to start my own business. And I did do that. I started a trucking business, which I still have, which is Gregg Trucking. I have a home building business, which I still have, which is 3G Builders. Anybody need something called? Give me a shout. Anybody need a home built? Give me a shout. I'm right here. But here about 2 years ago, I got the call from the county that the constable's position was about to open up. And the guys were trying to decide who they want to fill this position. And so they was trying to come up with names, and my name came up. How in the world it came up after 20 years, I don't know. But they decided to knock the dust off of me and put me back in a uniform. So here I am after being left Longview in '97. I forgot to mention the narcotics task force that I did for a year or so. But nevertheless, I'm here. I am your constable. I was duly elected. I am enjoying my job. I'm not campaigning on any type of promises. I'm campaigning on results. I've been in the job for 2 years now, and I have hit the ground running. We are having a great time. I know most of you in here. I'm a big talker, and I know I'm getting the time. I'm getting my little signal. I didn't even think I was going to talk this long, because I was sitting there like, Lord, I'm so nervous. What in the world will I say? But here I am, guys. I'm Constable Darrell Gregg. Elect me for your constable for this next upcoming election. Thank you so much.
Good evening. I'm Danny Craig II. I'm running for Gregg County Constable Precinct 4. I've been in law enforcement altogether about 14 and a half years. I'm currently with the Gregg County Sheriff's Office. The positions I've held there, I've been patrol deputy, detective for the Sheriff's Office, warrants, civil. I've served every capacity you can say there. Like I said, I'm a lifelong Precinct 4 resident, and I'm running for constable for Precinct 4, and I appreciate your continued support and vote, and y'all have a good evening.
Okay, so last but not least, Louis Castanon. Unlike most of the people that stood before me today, I did not have the privilege to be born in this country. I was brought here when I was 10, and District 2 has been home for me most of my childhood and adulthood, from Ware Elementary to South Ward, the old South Ward, to Foster Middle School, and a proud Lobo graduate. I am running for District 2 City Council. When I became a U.S. citizen 2 years ago, I don't know if anyone here has taken the test or gone through the interview, but one of the things they ask you, you're in front of an immigration officer, that they dictate your future. I know what the Bible says about my future, but now my future's in the hands of a complete stranger. And one of the questions he asked me was, what is the reason you want to become a U.S. citizen? My response, so I can vote and I can run in local elections. And here I am right now, exercising my right to vote and exercising my right to run for local office. So I will be representing District 2 City Council. And this is the first time most of you guys have seen me, but it's not going to be the last time.
Thank you to all of our people who are running for office. And at this time, we will have our rules about what's about to happen, and that will come from Minister Larry Washington.
Hello, everyone. So, my name is Larry Washington. I pastor at Post Oak Baptist Church. I also serve as the first vice president for the Longer Area Denominational Minister Alliance as well. And so I'm actually running for Jesus Christ. No, I thought you. So one of the things is Pastor Rudolph asked me to make sure that whenever we get a chance to have the question for each one of our presenters, one of the things that we ask is that everyone would actually, when they ask the question, it's not a way that we're trying to dig at someone when they present about trying to cast shade at them as well, but it's to try to be informed. So whenever we have one of these engagements or whenever we have something like this that we put on, it's to be informed, because we're not informed, we're misinformed. And a lot of times when people are misinformed, they take the wrong information. So the best way to really get all of the good information is to make sure that each one of our presenters, when they present, take notes on anything that you want to take notes on, and then be willing to ask those questions. But again, it's not to try to throw shades at anyone. It's not to try to embarrass anyone. The more questions we ask, the more informed that we can be. All right?
Our speakers are listed on our program. Our first speaker will be Dr. Wayne Guidry, who will be speaking about the LISD bond. Dr. Guidry?
First of all, I just want to thank you for your time this evening. I know it's difficult. One thing we've learned through communicating with the public is it's difficult to gather people. Everybody's so busy. And so I just want to thank you for your time. And first of all, I want to recognize the board members. I know Dr. Simmons is on the way. We've got Ted Beard on the back row, and Ladarian Brown with our ETA school board. So I want to thank you gentlemen for attending this evening. But so my job title is I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Finance in Longview ISD. I tell people, daily we sit in central office making decisions for the school district. And then once a month, we come before our school board and make a separate set of decisions. And then once about every 10 to 15 years, we come together as a community and make very big decisions concerning bond issues and elections. And so we feel that it's really important to get out and communicate with the public. I think this is like our 56th presentation to the public. And so it's been a great experience. We've learned a lot from this. And look forward to presenting this to you tonight. I want to talk about two things this evening. One is what is in our bond election, what do we plan on spending money on? And then the second phase of this, I would like to talk about why bond elections are important to school districts. So whether you're in Longview ISD, Pine Tree ISD, I know they've got an election going on this fall. I hope that we can all learn a little bit about why school districts depend on bond elections. So as you know, August 14th, our school board called for a bond election to be held on November 7th. And the very first time I heard the word bond election come out of someone's mouth, the very first step I took is the very first one most homeowners take, is we go to our financial advisor and we start asking ourselves two questions. How much income do I have versus how much debt do I have on the books? And so our first step was to do that. And the way we do that in school districts, we look at our adjusted debt to assess value. Our income is basically, in a nutshell, our property values. And our existing debt is how much we owe on existing bonds. And so when you divide those, you come up with a ratio of adjusted debt to assessed value. And you'll see both Longview and Pine Tree towards the bottom of that list. These are school districts here in East Texas, and their adjusted debt to assessed value. And so the best practice in the state of Texas is to be within under 10%. And so just like a homeowner, you've got best practices and guidelines that we go by as homeowners. The same exists, it's true of school districts. We've got best practices. We're graded on the amount of debt that we're in every year by the Texas Education Agency through their financial integrity rating report, which Longview ISD scored a perfect score of 100 this past year. And so let me back up. Again, you'll see Longview at 2.3% and Pine Tree, who's run up for election this year, at 2.18%. So both districts are in great shape to be able to take on these elections. I think they're very responsible decisions. So we're asking voters to consider two propositions, A and B. Proposition A is more of the campus proposition, and we will cover safety and security improvements at every campus, renovations to our high school, career and technology education building, that would be a new facility, early graduation, high school renovations, a new early childhood center, district-wide mechanical upgrades, and a new bus barn. So let me go into a little bit more detail. And so Proposition A is right over $291 million. I tell educators every year, our second priority is to educate our children. Our top priority, and it should be the top priority of every educator in the state of Texas, is to keep our children safe. That when those children come onto our campus, we take on the role of a parent in terms of protecting our children. And one of our top priorities is our high school with safety and security upgrades. One of the first things we want to do is put a perimeter fence around our high school. Being between two major highways, there's too much opportunity from people who don't belong on our campus to come onto our campus, and there's too many opportunities for our kids to walk off campus. And every so often they do. I mean, we've got plenty of nice restaurants across the street that they like to slip over to and grab lunch. But anyway, we feel that by having one way in and one way out to our high school, that would provide a much safer campus setting for our students. Every campus will have upgrades. We actually last year had Region 7 come in and do a full security audit of every campus. And so we took that audit and built our safety budget as part of the bond. And that's really how we build all of our budgets, based on needs. It's not wish list or what do you want or think. We start every budgeting process with what are the issues? What are the things holding us back from reaching our goals? Ongoing renovations. Our high school is 50 years old. It's falling apart. The sewer system was built of old cast iron steel. Same with the water system. And those pipes, they're corroding. They're beginning to fail on us. And the structure of the high school is solid. It's solid as a rock. But there are things inside of the high school that we have to maintain and able to keep utilizing the facility. And just as important, we have run out of space. We started the school year and we had 8 classroom teachers who did not have a classroom to be able to teach in. This is an example here of our world geography and career readiness classes meeting in the little theater. You got one teacher on one side of the theater instructing a group of kids, and another teacher on the other side of the classroom or the theater teaching simultaneously. Different subjects having to teach at the same time. We have 2 teachers who are teaching up in the football film room, and then we have several teachers that are having to bounce around from, if Miss Jones has a conference period in the first period, I go to her class and teach. Then second period, I go to Miss Matthews' class. And so that's something else we want to do in Proposition A, is reclaim some instructional space to create more classrooms for our teachers and students. Career and technology expansion. There's a lot of great things we'd like to offer in Longview ISD. We've expanded a lot of our offerings. Just in the past 2 years, we have increased our CTE revenue, career and technology revenue, by $2 million. We actually have a phenomenal system, set up by our legislature and our Texas Education Agency that rewards us for offering more career and technology programs. Go to any community in the state of Texas, and you will find that every one of them are desperate for skilled laborers. And that's why our legislature and TEA has created the system. Like I said, we started doing what they asked, and we've increased our revenue by $2 million. 2 years ago, we had 30 students who graduated with a professional certification in some type of career and technology field. This past year, we had over 200 of them graduate with a professional certification. Those certifications mean something. In Gregg County, about 53% of high school graduates in Gregg County go on to some type of post-secondary education. Of that group, only 24% of them are successful with a certification or a degree. That's sad. Our system is failing our communities if that's our results. And that's not just Gregg County. Those numbers are representative of statewide numbers. And I'm just going to preach for a second. But I've got 4 children. One of them, my oldest one, he's living the dream. Went out, got his engineering degree, making bukus of money. My second child is in his 8th year of college. And I give him a 50-50 chance he's going to make it. He's a great human being. He incredibly intelligent, polite, great work ethic, but just something about it. I don't know if he's made for college, and I don't know if he'll survive. But what frustrates me when it really hit home is during that 8-year period, he quit college 1 year, and he just wanted to go work. He went out and sold vacuum cleaners. And to me, I'm like, you spent 13 years of public education, and all we taught you was how to pass a STAR test. He had none of these opportunities to be able to learn a different skill. We've got to be able to equip our students to go out and pass STAR tests, be doctors and lawyers, but also have a secondary skill that they can fall back on. The one class we love to offer when we're down space is HVAC. Our students can take 4 years of HVAC courses and go out and make a great living for a family if college doesn't work out for them. You're talking a $50,000, $60,000 salary coming out of high school. HVAC and facility upgrades. So Longview ISD is very unique than any other district. When Dr. Wilcox came to this district, he tore down about 85% of the district, all the old elementaries and old junior highs, and he rebuilt it. And that's been fabulous for the last 15 years because we've spent very little district-wide funds on maintaining those buildings because they're all new. Well, they're about 15 years old now, and things are about to start falling apart, starting with the air conditioning units. And so we can't afford to do that as a district from our maintenance and operations budget, and we will depend on bond elections to be able to replace all those units. And that's just one thing that's unique about our district. When you buy all your buses at one time, they're all going to break down at the same time, so you just have to plan accordingly for that. Transportation facility. We've got, you just have to visit it. We call it the Palace. It's nothing like a palace. It's old. We have 125 employees in there. It's probably the size of me to that corner right there. And our bus drivers complain more about that facility than they do the students on their bus. And you know it's bad if that's the case. In there we have 2 toilets for all 125 employees, and they all come to work at the same time to clock in for their bus rides in the morning and afternoon. And so I think we can do better for our employees, our transportation employees. That is the most dangerous thing we do every day, is transport students. Proposition B is more of the athletic facility, right over $67 million. The biggest expenditure is a multi-purpose student facility, and it's a big one. It's 120 yards long. If you look at a lot of facilities, indoor facilities like this, with turf, a lot of them are 50, 60 yards long. And the reason we went with the full-length field is because we wanted it to be for all students. A band cannot practice on a field that's 50 yards long. And so, if you go to the streets of Longview, sometimes you'll hear, oh, this is just a football stadium. It's just for a Lobo football team. And I tell people, you don't really know John King if you think that it's just about football. That man works with the band director very well, and I don't think it matters if you have a French horn in your hand, a volleyball, or a pom-pom, or a football. That man just cares about kids and their future. And so I feel we're very blessed as a district to have him and how well he works with all the different sports and organizations, the cheer, band. And you see the other facilities, baseball, softball, soccer, and tennis renovations. 1988 was the last time we spent significant bond money on our athletic facilities. So we're looking right at 30 years. Anybody go to a baseball playoff game last year? There were more people sitting in lawn chairs, standing up, and sitting on the hill than there were sitting in the stands. And it's because our stands look like a Little League baseball field. And so, things like that. And if you just go to our facilities, you can tell they're dated. They are, got plenty of dust on them. That's our indoor existing facility, and that's our 9th grade band in there. So that's all the band can fit in there, it's just one grade level. Proposed multi-purpose facility they can utilize for all students. That is not our rendering, that is just an example to see what they look like. Other considerations, in May of 2022, we had a swim center on the election, on the ballot. This time we pulled that off of the ballot. And the reason is because the multi-purpose center proposition and the swim center proposition, they depend on each other. There are facilities that are going back and forth between the two. And by law, the law says that we have to, if you're going to do a swim center, it has to be on its own standalone proposition. So we can't combine it with Proposition B. And so what we felt like as a district is, because last time we felt like we were crossing our fingers that either they both need to pass or they both need to fail, but they can't be, you know, it just wouldn't work and we couldn't fulfill our promise to voters. So we took Proposition D out of the election and we just committed to, as a district, that we were going to pay for the swim center upgrades ourselves as a district from district funds at $3.4 million. So how much did it cost? We have any Longview ISD taxpayers in here? That's a big question. How much is it going to cost? So if your home is valued at $200,000 or more, or I'm sorry, $200,000, we're anticipating $10 a year or 83 cents a month. So for a home value of $200,000, that's $10 a year. If you're a resident that is 65 and older, with a homestead exemption on their property, you will not be impacted by this election. Taxes are frozen at age 65 with a homestead exemption. I was visiting with some senior citizens the other day, and they had no idea about that. So I'm like, we've got to communicate that information to our elders. So debt impact. If Proposition A and B were to pass, I'm going to go back to my first slide. What type of impact would that have on the district? And so I've kind of updated our existing property values. The first slide was based on last year's values. In August, we received new values, and so that 2.3% actually went down to a 1.8% of our debt to assessed value ratio. Our projected, if Proposition A and B pass, is still 6.8%. And again, best practice, according to TEA, is under 10%. School finance. No matter where you live at tonight, I hope you pay attention to this, because this impacts all of us. All school districts depend on bond elections. I want to give you just a brief summary of school finance. It's incredibly complex. I think there's only about 20 people in the entire state that fully understand school finance. But I'm breaking it down into 2 buckets or 2 bank accounts. INS, the one on the right, that is our interest and sinking. The only way by law that a district can utilize funds from there is if voters approve for a school district to do so. That's why we go for bond election. If we're successful with A and B, funds will flow to the interest and sinking. And by law, we can do things like new construction, renovations, HVAC systems, roofing, technology, buses, those type of activities. One thing we can't do is pay for salaries. We can't pay for classroom instruction materials. Those come out of our maintenance and operations budget. That's the budget we pass every year and we talk about. And items out of there begin with salaries. 80% of our budget is directed towards people. I've been telling our community for the past 2 months, the number one thing our community and parents should be concerned about are the adults that we're placing in front of their kids. The drivers that we're hiring to drive our kids back and forth to home. The adults that we hire to work our cafeterias. And that's why we spend so much money on staff members. We also pay for utilities, supplies, repairs, fuel. And if you'll notice, I put in red repairs. Where districts become unbalanced or get into trouble is when they're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on repairs and renovations and construction. If I'm doing that as a school district, what do I have less money to spend on? Salaries, my people. We've said that's the most important thing we do as a district is hire great people. And so there's got to be a balance. You find a school district that's struggling to compete with salaries, I would say the first place to start is go look and see how much money they're spending on repairs and how old their buildings are. See, for the past 15 years, we've had very little maintenance on all of our elementary and junior highs, so we've been able to divert that money towards salaries. We're currently the highest paying district in East Texas. Our teachers earn $3.5 million worth of bonus money every Christmas, and that's not by accident. That's by the circumstances of what happened in 2008. We passed a bond, we created elementaries and junior highs with low maintenance, divert that money towards salaries, and this election really is about what are we going to do for the next 15 years, and that balance. And I just want to give you an example. When our bond election failed in May 2022, our school board said, we've got to be responsible and go along and start repairing some of these old facilities. You know, some of the things that are broken in our district. So it was a little over 12 months, but we spent $4.5 million on different renovations. And this is just phase one. I think now, we've got several phases. The one that I've got on my desk for this current year is $5.7 million worth of renovation. So all in all, and that is if the bond election fails. So we're talking about $10.2 million that came out of this bucket right here, that really by design, if we're successful in bond elections, they can come out of the interest and sinking. That's really what that was designed for. And this is what it's all about right here. It's not all, but it's our teachers. When you look at the teacher salaries across the state of Texas when adjusted for inflation over the past decade, that's not far from a straight line. Teachers really haven't received much of a raise in the past decade when you take into consideration inflation. And I want to say it's not just about teachers. I had the custodian in our building yesterday. He came up to me and he's like, so Doc, do you think he's going to pass tonight? Because we were recommending to our board that our custodians, the floor, be $15 per hour. And he was excited about that. And that balance right there, when you're able to balance things appropriately, then you can bring before your board that we want all of our employees to make $15 an hour. We can give bus drivers raises that we gave a couple of years ago. We have more flexibility to spend money on our personnel and not just renovations. Governor Abbott's recent statement concerning teacher salaries. I want to make sure we provide a carrot to make sure this legislation gets passed. Once educational savings accounts are passed, I will put on the legislative agenda full funding for public education, including teacher pay raises for teachers across the state. I want to make two comments. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody's coming to save us at Longview ISD. We've got to make our own decisions, and we've got to make great decisions. The days of just making good decisions are gone. Our students need us to make great decisions. Our staff members need us to make great decisions on how we move forward. And I also want to say this, one thing I am more proud of than anything concerning public education is it doesn't matter what color, what your background is, what your economic status is. We educate all kids. I get a little bracelet over here. This is one of our freshmen. It represents one of our freshman students who was diagnosed with leukemia this year, actually just a couple months ago. Our staff members, our teachers, our counselors, and administrators drove all the way to Dallas to visit that girl as she went through her first round of chemotherapy. Now that she's back, she hadn't missed school. We're sending work to her. We've got a homebound teacher that we're sending to her, and then we'll send to her all year long because she's not coming back to school this year. We're going to continue to educate her and all students, regardless of the baggage they bring in the door when they come into Longview ISD. And I would say the same for Pine Tree ISD and any public school. School taxes, we reduced the tax rate by 30 cents over the past 5 years. I hope anybody received their tax notice in Gregg County here in the last week? Anybody notice anything different? Yeah. What's that? So yours got dropped? Yep. You're the second person I talked to today that my school taxes went away. And so if you haven't looked at your Gregg County Appraisal District notice, please go back and look at it because the tax rate has been reduced. And let me just be fair. We were able to do that because of our legislature. They fought all summer, all session, and all summer about tax relief, and they took the surplus funds from our legislative session and gave homeowners a historic property tax relief. The Senate said that the average Texan can anticipate a $1,300 tax relief. Here in Longview, that number is closer to $900, and so that's significant savings for many of our property, well, all of our property owners with homestead exemptions. Did a little voter analysis during the last election in May 2022. We had about 2,400 people vote, cast ballots. Of that number, we had only 340 citizens were under the age of 50. So 2,400 ballots and only 350 were under the age of 50. 2,096 were over the age of 50. And that's just reflective of us as a school district. We failed to get out and communicate effectively. We held 10 meetings just thinking the community would run to them, and we had 5 people show up to our meetings. And so this time we've been a lot more aggressive, going out to meet people where they are, and we've been tremendously much more effective. So we're expecting just, well, I know we've done our part. We've gotten out and informed people. You know, let's make informed decisions anytime we go to the ballot. I tell people we don't need more people voting. We need more informed voters going out and making good decisions. Early voting begins next Monday, October 23rd, and election day is November 7th. You can, I got a little bar scan here. You can scan that, and we will send you information and reminders to vote. Again, thank you for your time, and I just want to open it up for questions. Ask me anything. I'm telling you, I've heard the talk on the streets of Longview, and as a new employee to Longview ISD, I've just been shocked. We held leadership meetings every Tuesday. We talk about student outcomes. We talk about student behavior. We talk about staff retention and fiscal responsibility. And we talk about that every Tuesday, over and over and over again. So ask me anything. Yes, ma'am. Who's first?
The existing indoor facility, is that going to, for Proposition B, is it going to be torn down and a new one, or are you going to add on to it?
No, we're not adding on to that. So one thing that's interesting about going through a bond election is when you start this process, you don't know all the answers. So, and I'm just going to give you an example. When we started this design process, we weren't a classroom short. And so that's something that we're taking back into the equation because we need more instructional space. And that room right there may well be more instructional space. But no, there are no plans to expand the existing indoor facility. It might become several classrooms, to be honest. And I just want to say, that's the dilemma of going after a bond election. If we just make every statement, we're doing A through Z, then you're kind of bound to that for the next 50 years. If people are going to say, well, you said this, and what you do is you stop your ability to be able to think critically as you move along. Because I'll give you another example. We were just awarded a grant for a new clinic at our high school. And so that's something we've got to take into consideration as we renovate the high school, is where we're going to put a clinic in. And so just every day, new things pop up. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I just have a question about the school safety that you have as a part of it. Have you guys at all looked at the LAIMA grant that they have available now for school safety since the massacre?
The green light grant?
Yes, the green light grant that they have been sponsoring for schools to.
Who's sponsoring it?
The federal grant that's in place to help
Right.
schools get safety procedures in line.
I'm not for sure about the specific one, but I can tell you we applied for well over half a dozen grants and have been rewarded a couple of them. I don't have it right offhand, but we have sought out several opportunities for safety grants.
Well, I think it's particular for all schools, but because of the massacre that happened.
Oh, absolutely.
They're focused on schools here, making sure that they take advantage of those safety grant monies.
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate, our number one priority is safety. My kid goes to Columbia High School. We want our kids to be safe. And so we're doing everything we can. Like I said, we've applied for multiple grants. We've even had some grant writers help us apply for safety grants this past year. And so we're very aggressive in applying for the grants. We have a staff member that's her job is to apply for grants.
And I have a question, just to explain it. But I know you said you need a practice room for the band as well, for when they're marching. And I know that they had built a new indoor gym for the football team to work out. Does the band not work out in the same facility?
The one that's existing?
Yes.
It's too small. That picture I showed you, that was a 9th grade band in there. So They can't even fit in the full grade level. I think it's only like 40 or 50 yards.
Is this the same facility that the football team practices in yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's too small for the band?
Oh, yeah. Well, because when they go to practice on the field, they do competition practice. And to do competition, you need a 100-yard field. I mean, if it's 90 yards, you can't practice on it. And I'm not a band expert, so I can't tell you why, but that's coming from them. They only practice on 100-yard fields.
The indoor facility that they have right now is only 40 yards.
40 yards, okay.
That's the problem.
Thank you.
Good evening. I think first I should introduce myself so that you have a bit of a background of why I'm asking the questions I want to ask. First of all, I want to make a statement about that. This is a fact. A church member of mine was conducting his talents in a building right near the police department. It was for precision metal work. And he was so disgusted, and he shared his disgust with me. He said, Larry, I cannot even teach someone how to do a precision on metal grinding or cutting or lasering in when they don't have the basic to read a ruler, read a compass, circumference. They don't have that basic knowledge. And I'm wondering, is reading, writing, and arithmetic being lost, or is it being dependent upon the household that the child comes from, that those basic groundworks are taught? Because that school closed down because the children that was going there couldn't do and couldn't grasp how to do the measurements. These are high school students. I come out from some background. I was a technician. Dallas ISD. I saw no reading, writing, and arithmetic being used in the middle school. Even though I didn't have a chance because I was doing my job as technical work with computers. And I had 7 schools to do. But I believe it's very important that somehow or another we get back to the basics of giving those kids that foundation to move on, to be able to learn, and to grasp what changes we have. How can that child take a tax test or the test that is required by the state if they cannot comprehend or read or do arithmetic?
And I would say, I doubt there's one Longview ISD employee that would disagree with that, nor a school board member that would disagree with that. I'll throw this is just one of my little pet peeves. I don't understand why I think we're probably one of the only industrialized nations that utilizes 2 systems of math, the standard and uniform. I mean, to me, that just confuses kids. You know, we're having to translate, go back and forth. That's just on the math side.
It's very difficult to change. I'm just having a problem with it. And please excuse me, but I have a passion about where I'm coming from.
Let me just say, so,
let me give you a little bit more background.
well, do you want me to answer some questions, or what's your question? I'll answer for you. So let me respond to you. Let me respond to you. So one thing that's unique about the state of Texas, whether you're in Pine Tree, Houston ISD, Longview ISD, the state of Texas has an incredibly large economically disadvantaged population. And me personally, having grown up in a home economically disadvantaged with generational poverty, there's a lot of issues that come with that, a lot of struggles that come with that. And a lot of times, at least in my household, you know, my reading level was not always the top priority that we were going to discuss every night at the dinner table. And so we are very challenged here in the state of Texas. And I think we do a great job. I think we do, when you compare our system to other states and the outcomes that we do a great job educating ourselves. And like I said, I don't think anybody would disagree with you that it's important. It's incredibly important to, I know, our school board, our school district, and our employees. Like I said, every Tuesday, but we just finished talking about that last night at our school board meeting for about 20-30 minutes. And every Tuesday, we're talking about academic outcomes of our students. So we don't disagree with you.
And that's very important because as I do business in this city, and when I make money exchange in children that are supposed to be attending high school or have graduated and have problems making change, that's a problem.
What you at, man? My time's running out. I got about just a minute or so.
Just real quick, I just noticed LAIMA property community, and I was wondering exactly what other plans were built on that, having to do like renovations.
Right.
And also, my thinking is all this makeup that we're gonna do to Long High, along the end of the school district. I've been in several districts throughout Texas, and Long High do have excellent. I mean, it's very picturesque campuses. But my thing is, when are we going to have anything on the phone about free lunches for everyone?
We do have free lunches for everybody.
Okay.
We do. We've had that for 3 years in a row now. At least 3. Everyone. We don't charge students. Well, you better actually kind of decide where that money's going. Because we do.
Okay, one other thing.
Can I answer those two? Because I'll forget. I got a short memory. So the 62 acres we bought behind this high school. I personally live by the saying that I'm going to make short-term sacrifices for long-term gain. Dr. Wilcox has practiced that over the past 15 years, and whenever there's strategic property around a campus or existing facility along the ISD, he snatches it up. And we're about to be able to take advantage of that for our early learning center, and that's stuff he's been doing for the past 14 years. And there will be a generation, our next generation, that will look back at us and applaud us for not just buying the land, but the great deal we got on the land. We paid right at right around $5 million for it, and it was appraised at over $6.1 million.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay. And what was your second question?
About the fence around Long High School. How many incidents have there been where that is a thing by not having a fence? For me, it seems like a fence would be more like a prison where they're locked up.
We don't.
If something happens and we can't get out, I always think about how to get out. The other thing I can do is help with our campus.
Right. Well, we're talking through the gates because we have multiple gates that they'll be just like they are now. They're open in the mornings, and then during the day they're closed. So it wouldn't really change the makeup of entry-exit because we do that currently. Thank you.
Good evening. I have a question. I noticed the comments where should fund that we want early graduation, there will be renovation on the
Correct.
campus. They is also part of that campus. So
Yep. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Guidry, for that financial information to help us make decisions about our voting on the bond. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Zach Baldwin, who will introduce Dr. Johnson, and they will be talking about school choice.
Hey everybody, thank y'all for letting me come here today. I work with Americans for Prosperity. For those of you who don't know what that is, we're a nonpartisan political organization that likes to connect people to policy. We work on things like criminal justice reform, health care, educational savings accounts, and we actually played a really big part in helping the governor to get property tax relief passed. So we're all about, making it easier to live the American dream. So I'm here today to introduce Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson works with Texas Public Policy Foundation. They're one of our big coalition partners. So he's going to come up, kind of talk about school choice, and then at the end, if you have questions for either of us, feel free to ask them. I just want to let you know I'm here talking about school choice today because I've gone all over from Tyler to Texarkana meeting with homeschool parents, private school parents, public school teachers, public school superintendents, and I hear that all of these students are really need different options sometimes. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach when you talk to teachers or superintendents. So Dr. Johnson's going to kind of get into that.
Thanks, Zach. How's everybody doing? I'm doing wonderful. I tell you, I'm gonna vacillate a little bit back and forth because sometimes I'm Dr. Johnson, and then sometimes I'm just old Sarge. I served 8 years in the United States Army. If you're a veteran out there, thank you guys for your service. Raise your hand. If you're a veteran, thank all you guys for your service. Now, I'm also a graduate of Wiley College in Marshall, Texas. Have y'all ever heard of Wiley College right up the street? I see a hand back there. And went to Wiley College, got a bachelor's degree in history and government, but also a graduate of Texas Southern University. See a TSU person in the back there. My master's is from TSU in clinical psychology, and my doctorate is from TSU in education administration with a concentration in higher ed. So I've kind of spent a lot of time in education. I spent over 30 years in education. I grew up in Houston, Texas, and born in a place called Fifth Ward, a stone's throw away from downtown. All three of my degrees are from what we call HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. And spent a lot of time working with the church. I was 17 years. I was the president of the Louisiana Prison Chapel Foundation, where we built 21 churches inside of prisons throughout the state of Louisiana. 12 and a half years, I served as the CEO when I first came out of the Army, when drugs were very prevalent in our communities back in the 80s. I opened up a drug treatment facility in the middle of Fifth Ward for inner city boys ages 11 to 18 for 12 and a half years. We provided that service, drug and alcohol abuse treatment and education for inner city boys, over 6,000 of them in the Houston area. So I spent a lot of time educating folk, all the way from, and I also taught high school. I taught secondary, and also taught at TSU, Prairie View, St. Philip's, and I developed the program for freshmen and sophomores at Wiley College. So I spent a lot of time in the education space. Also a lot of time in the criminal justice space. Because right now in the state of Texas, African Americans make up 12% of the population. We make up 12% of the population. Hispanics now make up about 40.5% of the population in Texas. And the Anglo community makes up about 40%. In the criminal justice system, that 12%, our 12% makes up 34% of TDCJ, folks who are in prison. The Hispanic community makes up 33%. The Anglo community makes up 33%. So the smaller percentage of folk in the state of Texas make up the larger percentage of folks in the prison system. Why are you talking about this, Dr. Richard Johnson? Because I have a personal stake. I'm a black man in Texas. So I have a personal stake. So that small group of people that make up the larger percentage of folks in the criminal justice system, and 70% of the folks in the criminal justice system, 70% of folks in the criminal justice system are reading at or below a 3rd and 4th grade level. There's a direct correlation between failing in education and increasing in criminal justice. It's a direct connection. So if I wanted to say, my old preacher said, man, if you ever want to find a church with the very, very best drug ministry, find one who got a pastor got a son or a daughter who got a drug problem. So why did I get involved in fixing education? I did my dissertation on decreasing dropout rates, increasing student success rates. Why did I get involved in that? I'll tell you the reason why I got involved, because I wanted to save my community. So in developing programs, that's basically what I've done. So when I came back from the Army and started working, I got married. And I got two boys, I got two girls. So one day my wife came home and she said, Richard, I believe that our kids will get a better foundation in education if we sent them to a Christian-based private school. And that was before my Dr. Johnson days. I was kind of broke. But I was in school working on my degrees. I said, babe, this school district out here works well. We were in spring. I said, this school district works well. She said, Richard, I read in a pamphlet if we sent them to a Christian-based school from pre-K through the 6th grade, they're going to get a better foundation in reading, math, and science. And they're going to get some more moral development. I said, babe, we doing fine. You doing fine. You went to public school. I'm doing fine. I went to public school. You know, why are we doing this? I said, matter of fact, I said, what study did you read? She said, this one right here. She pulled it out. I looked at the brochure. I said, that's the problem with it right there. She said, what's that? I said, that says St. Mary's. I said, that's Catholic. We're Baptist. You know, why don't we send our kids to a Catholic school? She said, Richard, the data shows that if we send them there to a private school, a Christian private school, they're going to get a better foundation. And I said, well, how can we do that? That costs money. We're paying high taxes over here, and we're going to have to pay 100% over there. She said, you're going to have to get another job. So I ended up getting a second job. Let me tell you guys something. It's the best argument I ever lost in my life. Best argument I ever lost in my life. And that was 22 years ago. But I struggled through it. I paid 100% of the taxes over here for Spring ISD, and I paid 100% of the tuition over there. And one day my son came home, and I like to test my kids. I don't know about you guys. Like I said, I'm an old Army sergeant. I test him. I say, hey man, read that to me. Richard picks up the book, and the cat just started going. I was like, oh man, this cat reads better than me. And then my daughter, now mind you, I was born in 5th Ward. Anybody ever heard of 5th Ward in Houston, Texas? All right, I was born in 5th Ward on Lockwood Drive. That's the heart of the black community and really heart of a low-income area right now, right? Born there. My daughter came in one day and my wife said, we want to go to Simone's recital. I said, what is she reciting? She said, mind you, I'm working 2 jobs. She said, her violin recital. I said, I got a kid playing a violin? She said, yeah. My daughter gets up and she's playing that violin. And I said, look here, we're gonna have some people over, man, to the house. Come see my daughter play the violin. One of the things I'm sharing with you is, I have never seen our community work well and thrive without the church. The church has worked well for us. Wiley College is a Christian private school, if folk don't know that. Dr. Hayes, who's the president of Wiley College when I was there, was also Pastor Hayes. We do better when we allow the church to get involved. Now, folks say, well, what is education savings account going to do? And I hear you use the language, vouchers. What about parent empowerment? What about education freedom? See, when I was struggling to get my kid through there, because those who are married, I wasn't going to be in that argument anyway. When I was struggling to get my kids through that school, you know what I was hoping 21 years ago? What if they just gave me 50% of the money I'm paying over here to help me pay over there? Because it's my kid, my choice. I'm the one working. It's my tax dollars. Why can't I even get some of my tax dollars to help me? But at that time, 21 years ago, had nobody else engaging in that fight. It took 21 years. But right now, my kids are grown, but I got a grandson. I'll fight for my grandson and my son to make that decision. Because if I pay taxes, I ought to be able to say where my tax dollars are going. I ought to have some say in that. And if I want to send my child to my church, if my church opens a school and I want to send my child to that church, some of my tax dollars ought to follow my child to that church. Because I'm going to tell you something. It's no mistake, and we know this, whether you say it or you don't. It's no mistake that that little group, that little 12% of Texas make up 34% of the prison population. And we always say it's the system. Well, what about if you could change the system? What about if you could open up your own school? What about if you could teach your own kids? I have a doctorate degree in education. I go to a church. What about if my church want to open up a school? I could go work at my church school and give all of my time and my credentials to my church. Because guess what? We know for a fact that we do not do well outside of the church. When we move away from the church, things go wrong in our communities. And right now, we've gone a long way away. I've heard folks say, well, if they just put prayer back in the school, well, pass ESAs and open up your own church, open up your own school, and you can pray half the day. When I was at Wiley College, you know what was mandatory at Wiley College? Somebody said, I had to go to chapel. It was mandatory. And Dr. Hayes would be out there, he'd see who wasn't in chapel, and he'd check you out if you didn't show up for chapel. And I'm gonna close up with this, a couple things really quick. One, when I opened up that drug treatment facility in Houston, it's a 51-bed facility, and we also provide the education. There was a young pastor who had just started a church right next door to our facility, our campus. Fallbrook. If you look up Fallbrook in Houston, Texas, now they got it probably around about 10,000 members. But he was a young pastor starting up a church next to a place that only took tough boys. I was straight out the Army, I only took the toughest boys. Matter of fact, they had to wear uniforms. They had to wear uniforms, do PT early in the morning. For y'all don't know, that's physical training. Same thing we did in the military. And then I partnered with him and a couple other pastors because the education, the counseling, the mentoring, the groups, all that wasn't going to be enough. So I partnered up with him and a couple other pastors, and they would come over. And for those boys who wanted to convert and give their souls to Christ, they would baptize them in the swimming pool. And they would do Christian counseling. And then they would do Christian counseling with families. And we had almost a 90% success rate of turning young boys around who had got kicked out of the public school system and was on their way to the penitentiary. So what am I saying to you? I see parent empowerment and educational freedom as the civil rights movement of our time. I see it as a pathway for us to save a population of young folk who may not make it in the public school system. This is not an either public school or private school or this. I'm saying all of the above. Because we don't fund institutions. We should not fund institutions. We should fund children. And the dollars are to follow the child. And maybe not here in Longview. In Longview, you may not have a problem with zip codes and people being locked into certain zip codes with chronically failing schools that we call the school-to-prison pipeline. You may not have that problem here. But in Texas, we have that problem in your major centers that have multiple zip codes. And if you trace those zip codes, go to the penitentiary and you find out where these guys are coming from, you can trace them back to those same zip codes. And in those zip codes, you can find those same chronically failing schools that we call school-to-prison pipeline. So maybe this won't save Longview. But maybe it'll save Texas. And let me ask you something else. Do you know James Former? Have you ever heard the name James Former? He's a Wiley man. He graduated from Wiley College. James Former was part of the Big Four. You've heard of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. The wind beneath the wings of the Civil Rights Movement. If you heard of the Congress, CORE, Congress on Racial Equality, he was the founder of CORE, he was the founder of SNCC, and he's a graduate of Wiley College right here in East Texas. He may not have saved Marshall, Texas, or East Texas, but his voice rings across America for saving not only a few people and representing folks and representing the civil rights movement for black people, white people, brown people across this country. So, what I'm asking you to do, think about it. Think about what you can do. See, James Former, I got a chance to meet him before he passed away. He spoke at my commencement at Wiley College when I came across the stage. And you could have heard a pin drop as he told how he fought alongside King, one of the Big Four. And when I came down across the stage, he shook my hand, he said, now it's your time to go and change the world. Education freedom is going to change the world. It's going to change the world. The governor says he wants Texas to be #1 in education. Well, if you want to be #1, you got to look at #1 and see what #1 is doing. You know who #1 is? Arizona. You know who #2 is? Florida. Arizona and Florida have the #1 and #2 spots. Texas. And both of them have the most robust parent empowerment and educational freedom programs in the nation. So I'm asking you to help, give it some thought, and maybe we can move forward. With that, I'll open up for questions.
I understand that. More. I brought no expectations tonight. Call it parent choice. Problem is, all the choice lies in the private school. They get to decide what they think their kids are.
I'm questioning.
I'll give a question.
Okay.
They get all the choice. It's not parent choice, it's not parent empowerment. Private school choice. Talk about private school doing well. Well, if I get to pick all my kids from wherever, it still needs to be better.
Amen.
That's fact.
Okay.
So the question is,
Okay.
I don't understand that because this is all being looks like a certain kind of night. Raise $4. Another one is my girl. She's in public school. And she's doing just fine. I'm not worried about her going anywhere.
But you had a question though.
I don't understand now. This is a huge tax increase. Because we're going to be paying for things we're not going to pay for. So what I understand is how we support tax dollars for this. But then same conservatives who support this are the same ones talking about we don't need any student loan payoff. I mean, isn't that the same thing? Thank you.
Is that the question? Okay. First of all, in the last legislative regular session, put $10 billion more in for public education in the last session, the regular session. And then there's another $4 billion that will go in this special session. So we had a surplus, the state of Texas had a surplus of $32 billion. So a lot of tax dollars are going back. 18 billion went for tax cuts that you saw right there on your screen. Property tax cuts. So there's opportunity there for everybody. Now here's the thing. The bill that's supporting ESAs, now I'm gonna go back. 10 billion more in the regular session, another 4 billion for public schools. For education freedom. Now this is a question we need to know. Why is it so hard? Education freedom, less than 1 billion. But you know, no, let me tell you the reason why. Let me tell you the reason why it's such a, I'll tell you the reason why it's such a fight. Because if you get one taste of freedom, if you begin to open up your own schools, and you begin to teach your own people, and you begin to grow and thrive in your own community, just a taste of freedom, then guess what? You're going to open up more freedom. Next question. Let me get the next. No, I need the next one.
You had spoken about your children and how you had to pay and with freedom of choice, and you want your tax dollars to pay for your grandchildren to go to school and have freedom of choice. Vouchers is giving everyone, you're taking everybody's tax dollars, not just yours. If you want your tax dollars to cover your grandchildren deciding where they want to go to school and choose a choice, you need to start saving account.
Well, the thing of it is, everyone should have the freedom. The freedom to have a say. It's not a question about your dollars or my dollars. It's about whether or not you have the freedom to say where your dollars are going to go. And you should have that freedom. But freedom is a hard take. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I've been an advocate for disabled children and adults most of my adult life. So I'm really concerned that this proposed voucher bill will allow public schools to reject children that have special needs. I'm also concerned that every don't have enough protections that are afforded in public schools, no accommodations. Specifically, that's exempted from this bill. And, you know, many of the children that I represented are successful because of the accommodations of the private program. So if we take that away, knowing that there are only 65 special education schools in the whole state of Texas, private special education schools, and they exist in only 13 cities across Texas. The tuition for those schools is about $19,000. What the families would get for a child going to a private school is going to be less than $8,000 because they're going to be administrative taken out of the $8,000 these schools accommodate now about 45,000 students. We've got 600,000 special needs children in the state of Texas. So my concern, well, let me go back and say there's been a bipartisan commission that has said that the public school and special education program has been underfunded by the state of Texas to the tune of $2.2 billion. In fact, they're getting sued by the federal government because they've underfunded the special education programs here in the state. So, my question is, why aren't these billionaires that are focusing on pushing these out, why aren't they more focused on fully funding our special education program to protect our special education?
The answer to your question is, I just shared that this session, during the regular session, there was an additional $10 billion already passed. During the special session, there's a proposed $4 billion more. But for this education freedom, less than $1 billion, and we get 100% of the fight against less than $1 billion for freedom. For giving people freedom. Well, let me just say this. Let me just finish. For giving people freedom to decide where they want to send their child. The last vestige, because the great equalizer in America is what? Education. No, education.
No.
See?
That's not true.
The great equalizer, because if you don't have an education, in America, you're going to find it very challenging to move forward.
Are you aware that the private schools can reject child services?
What ended up happening, what I'm trying to do is give the precinct information. Now, what we get, a lot of us getting upset. Governor Abbott is still meeting right now. They cannot come home until they make a decision on this bill. Okay, you that have your complaints that you have, you shouldn't be in Long Beach with them, you should be in Austin with them. Because see, what's gonna end up happening is, when Governor Abbott passed this bill, the thing about it is because it's gonna pass. Once the bill passed, we need to know how this bill is gonna work for us. Because it's gonna pass without your vote. So it's gonna be a lot of mad votes. But you need to see, how can I work with the system? And that's pretty much how we need to do. This is the whole reason for it. If you have a complaint, you can't stop this. You need to be in Austin. But it's just ask, the question you need to ask is, how this gonna affect, or how I'm gonna be able to work with what's coming my way. That's pretty much what it is. I'm sorry. Yeah, but I understand that. I understand that. But see, we taking it too long. Everybody have 30 minutes. We taking it too long. He will be still here after to answer questions. But everybody have 30 minutes. Everybody have 30 minutes. He will be still here to answer your questions. Okay, and next question. I answer. Oh, you will. Oh, yeah, you're gonna hear the rest of the folks that's standing up. Oh, yeah, you will hear them. I just want to.
private school, because we already have that. I am curious though, do you know the numbers, the data that is attached with this $500 million and the expansion of government that will actually happen? And those of us, we already know there's enough government, but there's going to be more. Do you know that they will have to create a special department in the comptroller's office to specifically deal with vouchers that will be allowed to take up to 3% of the $8,000 that the families have been promised? Do you know that they will also have 5 approved education assistance organizations that are allowed to take up to 5% of the $8,000 that families have been promised? So far now, the $8,000 has dropped down to $7,360. Do you know that there will be these administrative fees and that the government will actually grow in size and that the $500 million will actually serve less than 1% of the school-age children in the state of Texas? 62,500 students will be able to get part of that $500 million. Do you know that this is a drop, that there will be children across the state that have been promised, families that have been promised, and that they will not receive anything?
And I agree with you. It is a drop in the bucket, but that's the way Arizona started, and that is also the way that Florida, and they're getting better results. Next question. But I don't want to argue. I just want to answer your question, then I'll get the next question.
I appreciate once again taking the time to talk with us. And you stated about having a military background. We spoke prior to. I've spent 28 years, 5 months, 6 days, 4 hours, and 32 minutes in the car. I've served on the school board for 25 years, and I've learned between the two organizations to make data-based decisions rather than I think. As a correction, I just want to let you know that I personally know a representative for the state of Arizona that I just spoke to because of what they have, that $440 million in the hole that they're looking at how to fund that this year. So it's not working there, and throughout the state, throughout the United States, where they have education savings accounts, vouchers, or however you want to package it. If the data says it is not working, then, and this is a rhetorical question, then why are we pushing it? The question or the answer is again going back to following the money. Who is funding and pushing these politicians that are backing them to push this? And so, for me as a school board member, I want to continue to fight for quality, equitable education for all of the students that I serve, and I'm not going to be bought paid for it, and that's what a lot of
Is that the question? Because I can respond.
So my question is, if I'm supposed to make a data-based decision as a board member, and we're informing the public, and the data says it does not support educational savings accounts, which has a history that goes back to in the state of Texas about integrating schools, is when vouchers came up, then why should an individual vote for something that the data says it is not there? I'll let you.
Thank you. All right. One thing is, first of all, I'm glad I'm not a politician. I'm an educator. So I work every day for a living. The second thing is that when you look at the data, it is data driven. If you look at the numbers, who's at the top and who's in between and who's at the bottom in terms of academic performance. That's what you look at. And if Arizona's at the top on academic performance, and if you look at Florida. Number 2, you're going to look at number 1 and number 2, and then you're going to determine what number 1 and number 2 is, and then see if that model can work for you. Next.
Thank you. Are you aware of the NAACP's resolution regarding vouchers? Because if not,
I am aware of it. Go ahead.
So whereas the NAACP has always fought for strong, integrated, quality public schools, and whereas 54% of the children who attend public schools live in poverty, and whereas school vouchers are promoted as a means of increasing academic gains for students from low socioeconomic backgrounds by enabling them to attend private school, but research shows there is no clear academic advantage of attending a private school. And whereas school vouchers funnel valuable funds into private schools by diverting funds from public schools, whereas school vouchers impede communities from creating stronger relationships among public schools, parents, and teachers because of the stigma attached to the public school system. And whereas school vouchers give parents the false idea that public schools are inadequate to meet their child's needs, and whereas school vouchers violate some state constitutions because they redirect funds to provide financial support to sectarian schools, and whereas in Florida, for example, 71% of the private schools which participate in the scholarship program are sectarian, and 82% of all students receiving school vouchers attend sectarian schools. And whereas certain state voucher programs avoid direct funding of private schools only by the means of channeling taxpayer funds through tax expenditures. Therefore, be it resolved that the NAACP reaffirms its 2003 and 2010 prior opposition to school vouchers and to the privatization of public schools, and be it further resolved that the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People stand opposed to the government dissemination of school vouchers as a means of undermining public education and using tax dollars for vouchers that will subsidize private and sectarian education. And be it finally resolved that the NAACP will continue to encourage all of its units, including Longview, to encourage all of its units to work to provide support for the public school system, to encourage community members to provide services and support to parents, teachers, and students in public schools, and to promote the public school system as the most effective way of providing high-quality education to all children. So my question after reading this is, why is it that the Longview NAACP is providing no more than information from pro-voucher people and not from people who oppose vouchers? If they want to get the information out, they should have a balanced discussion.
Well, I believe they are having a balanced discussion. There's got a whole lot of folks who oppose it have come up. Let me just share this to respond to your resolution. Do you understand NAACP, National Association of Academic Programs? That's the nation's report card on academic performance. The NAACP data that came out demonstrated that there was only one group that did not suffer learning loss during COVID. Those were your private Christian schools. Matter of fact, they even went up. They had a 1% increase. You know what I like about the military? The military taught me discipline. You see how when that gentleman read that whole thing, I sit there and I didn't open my mouth. No matter how bad I wanted to stop him, I didn't open my mouth because of discipline. Now, NAACP data, the nation's report card has demonstrated over the last 20 years, year after year, student performance in math, reading, science, your basics, have outperformed the public schools. 20 years in a row consecutively, the Christian-based schools have outperformed. So you can argue with me if you want to, but the data is the data, and it's data-driven. Your question.
This is more than just to try to get it wrapped up. I think one of the things, I worked for a company for 40 years, retired in 2018. I did a lot of traffic studies, and not only that, I first a lot of numbers. I always have to be forward thinking about what the next 10 years back is going to look like when you're dealing with the fleet transportation side. And one of the things that I've seen is we can look at neighborhoods right now where we have a sudden flight that takes place. When people move out of the neighborhood, move to another area, say move from south to north, what happens to that neighborhood is it becomes the center. And so that means funds are no longer flowing into it. And we can see it all the time in our neighborhood. And so and that means that the city is no longer really funding it, it's not keeping it up. So we take it, start putting funds out of the local schools. What's going to happen with those schools? Because we know that they won't be fully funded anymore. And I think we can already see, because this right now, when we look at it, this is more or less an experiment. So we don't know what the end game is going to be, but we know because look at it. So we're doing it for a while, but what will the end game be when we start putting a lot of those funds out of the schools?
One of the things is, I'm glad you asked that question, because one of the things is we got about 30 years into this thing, and when parent empowerment and education freedom first came across in Milwaukee about 30 years ago, it was a black female state representative who got the bill passed. She's the mother of what you call school choice. It's a black female simply because she realized in Milwaukee that the students that were in our community, in the black community, were underperforming and didn't have a way out. So we got about 30 years. Matter of fact, 32 other states already have education freedom. 32 other states already got it. We're very slow about getting to it. But one of the things that we've been able to do is look at over 30 years what has happened. One of the things that we found is that competition has helped the public schools. Simply because if their academic programs over here and a school has been there 30 years doing the same thing, and this program over here now is having academic success and people start leaving here and going there, these folks over here change their game. And what we've seen is public schools increase their academic performance, as well as the charters, the privates, the home schools. There should be more than one way that we are allowed to teach children. And the dollars, we should fund children and not institutions. That's it, brother.
Thank you.
I'm 77 years old. I grew up here in Longview, and I faced a lot of discrimination in that program, this bonding for private schools, and segregation coming here.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. 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 Let me mention this. Let me mention this. The whole reason for this to inform us. Now, let me mention this also. And the only way you can stop this, I sit there and say it can't be stopped. The only way you can stop this, you call your elected officials, which is JD, and tell him not to vote for it.
You won't talk to me.
You got to, if y'all call him and say, JD is y'all elected official, and if JD is not talking to y'all, then you need to vote people like that out of office. For our area. For our area. But then just let him, he's supposed to be voting on it. If they don't have enough count, I'm just correcting myself. It's not gonna pass until all of them vote for it. So all of them, if they don't vote for it, it's not gonna pass. I just want to make a correction on that. Now we're gonna move over to church security. Come on, my brother. Any more questions, just ask, call JD and we have a stoplight.
My name is Sean Healy, and I work with a group called the Texas Church Security Coalition. It's started in Tyler at Green Acres Baptist Church, which is one of the really big churches, and about 10 years ago, something like that, Mike Collins started a church security program there, and it's grown, and so they've kind of forged a path that everybody else can follow and learn a lot. So Mike founded the Texas Church Security Coalition, and we're at the point of going statewide to share information with people. And so that's what I'm here to do tonight, is to share information. And this is all an option for you. This is informative. If you choose to put a program in your church, then more power to you. We will certainly support you and help you get trained, help you through some of the legalities and things like that. If you choose not to have one, then that's your church. That's your church's choice. So it's a dangerous world out there. I think we got reminded of that this week, and I can tell there are a lot of Christians here. Let's pray for the people over on the other side of the world, because they're going through a tough time right now, and it's man-made. It's not a natural disaster. The people in the coalition believe, we sat down and we talked about what our founding principles were going to be. We just got incorporated earlier this year, and that was kind of a change. We're going statewide instead of just being an East Texas thing. And we decided that our fundamental belief in this regard is that people should be able to worship God without having to fear for their physical danger and without having to be distracted by not only violence, but also things like fires, medical emergencies, domestic disturbances, people stealing the collection plate and all that. And as long, if you're a member, if you're worshiping God, we don't care about how you do that or what religion you're a member of. We believe everybody that worships ought to be safe. And we want to help that. We don't want to judge you based on which sect you're a member of. We just want to help you stay safe, because then you can decide for yourself how to worship God. So we also believe that children should be kept safe in schools. And so we strongly support security in schools. Let me tell you about the bill, since that's what I'm here to talk about. Senator Brian Hughes, who represents this part of Texas, he introduced a bill that confers immunity on church security volunteers and on the churches that have them. Immunity, are there any lawyers out in the audience? Immunity, is that a strong word in the legal profession? Immunity is like a shield that prevents you from being sued and prevents you from having a judgment against you. So if you have immunity, then the legal system can't be used to punish you or to try to take your money. It's the very top level of protection. It's not like there are lower levels of protection like presumptions or things like that. Immunity means get out of court. You can't sue them. So what this means is it applies to teams of volunteers, and it also applies to employees of churches who have security in their job description. The employee part is kind of difficult because you have to be a licensed security guard in order to be paid to do security services. So really that doesn't affect us. We don't have to talk about that. Most churches can't afford to have their own, pay a fleet of private security people to look around. Although Green Acres actually has their own security company to keep their licenses and everything for their members. So the rest of us deal with volunteers. And so if you are a member of a team, and if you're a volunteer, and if security is a part of your job description, then you have immunity from lawsuits for doing what is within the scope of your employment as a church security volunteer. Also, the church has immunity for what you do, for your acts and omissions, which means when they pass that collection plate and you feel the love and throw that money in there, that means that if one of your church security volunteers does something and someone gets hurt or killed, they can't take your money out of that collection plate and give it to the plaintiff. So it protects the churches and it protects the volunteers. It's a very strong statement that the state of Texas stands with the good guys here. It does not cover paid security people. So if you hire a security company, an outside security company to come and bring their employees in to keep your church safe, you don't have immunity. And if you have a law enforcement officer there, it doesn't give them immunity for that. It doesn't give the church immunity, although the law enforcement officer may have immunity for doing his job. So, if something happens and you have a team and you go to court, what kind of an organization are you going to need to have in place in order to have this immunity? It doesn't have to be written, but it would be foolish not to have your policies and your roster in writing. So basically, all you have to prove is that you have a team of volunteers, that security is part of their job description, and you got to prove who they are. And if you write that down ahead of time, you're done. You've got immunity. If you don't write that down, imagine how that's going to play out. They're going to say, well, do you have a team? And you're going to say, yeah. Well, show us something in writing. We didn't actually write anything down. We just had a meeting and voted on this. Okay, well, what are your policies? Well, we're going to keep everybody safe. Well, does that include security? Well, I think so. Well, who are the members? Well, Bob was at one of the meetings. I think he's a member, but John wasn't there. So you may lose that immunity just because you didn't take 5 minutes to write it down. And the coalition will help you get some policies in place that'll take care of this. So it's really pretty simple, but if you don't form a team, you don't get immunity. And if you don't write these things down and make it official, you don't get immunity. And that could put your church out of business. It could make your volunteers bankrupt, because if somebody gets hurt or killed and successfully sues you or your church, how much are they going to get? It's going to be a lot more than you have in a collection plate. The other thing, though, is this is a financial issue, but in a dangerous world, this is also a moral issue. I'm actually studying the morality of self-defense and everything right now. I kind of took it for granted, but I'm going in and reading back through the Bible and back through some of the teachings of theologians and ethicists and stuff like that. But the strong should protect the weak. And so we have police to do that, of course. What's the response time of the police? In some parts of town, it may be 5 minutes. They've told us to the church in downtown Tyler that the response time is probably about 4 minutes, depending on how many officers they have on duty. But if you look at the numbers, once someone starts shooting people, you lose about one person every 10 seconds. So if you've got a couple minutes to make the 911 call and get a unit sent out, and then 4 minutes for the unit to get there, and then a couple more minutes for the officers to form up and go in, that's 8 minutes. So there's 48 people that you sat next to at the last service in our church. If you have somebody there who can stop it, like what happened in White Settlement, and then tragically what happened after the massacre at Sutherland Springs, they can stop it. So my question is, how are you going to be judged if you know what a dangerous world it is and you don't do anything to stop that? So I hope you'll find it in your heart to do something to keep people safe. And this is one option. This is one option here. It's definitely not the only option. Grant money was mentioned earlier. There is a lot of Homeland Security money coming into Texas and going out in grants for church and school security. And my church applied for a Homeland Security grant for church security, and I think they got $123,000. And we don't have a huge church. So this money, it's easy to get it if you apply correctly, but if you miss crossing the I or dotting a T, you're not going to get the grant. And as an example, my church is St. Mary Magdalene Catholic Church. When we applied, we wrote it out ST period. right? That's the abbreviation for saint. They checked with our IRS records to make sure that we were tax exempt, and our name was ST with no period, Mary Magdalene, and they denied the grant initially. So we called a guy who was smarter than we are, who had gone and done this for a Cowboy church, and he helped us get all of our stuff ready. And that guy's a member of the coalition. He's on the board, and he helps people do their grants. So we have that type of help available for you if you're getting started. We also have model policies that have been used by other churches that you can put in place that lays out who's in charge and what the rules are and things like that. We'll do anything that we can to help you. As an example of that, on November 28th, we're bringing a guy in who's an authority on mass shootings. He's studied this more than anybody that I've ever known. And he has a long presentation he's going to give. November 28th is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And we're going to try to do a little bit of screening to keep the bad guys out. So if you want to get there, if you want to get into that, somebody from your church needs to do a request to the website. It's Texas Church Security Coalition. And then when you tell us who your church is and you're affiliated and everything, then we'll probably, we're not turn people down unless there's something hokey about it. But that's going to be from 6 to 9:30, and he's going to talk about that. So this is informative. Again, you know which side I'm on because I'm trying to help people get this going. You have a right to make other arrangements or not to make any arrangements, but if you want help, we will do anything we can to help you get started. And I appreciate your time. Everybody has been so kind here. I want to thank Darren Rudolph for inviting me to this, and everybody has been very kind and receptive and helpful and generous, so I really enjoyed it. Ma'am? It's called the Texas Church Security Coalition. It's on Facebook. I've got a business card I can give you, and I'll put you in, respond and send you straight to the link if you like. So I'll open it up for questions. Yes, ma'am. Yes. The grant, they don't pay for anything involving guns. So gun training, nope. Ammunition, nope. Buying guns, nope. What they do mainly, they do fund training. So you can do medical training, you can do infrastructure and all that, and they also fund basically what's called, there's two variations on this. One is called target hardening, so like doors that are strong, centralized locking systems where you run the card and it locks every door in the building, cameras, cybersecurity, lighting and stuff. There's another field, and I forget what it's called. But it's more about channeling people and kind of influencing them instead of putting a wall up in front of them. It's SEPTA or something like that, but it's where you control the layout and kind of funnel people to the right places, and you influence them to stay away with things like lights and visibility and all that. And it funds that also. But it's more, a lot of it is hardening your building, making it more secure, things like that. Any other questions? If anybody wants a card, I'd be happy to give you one. Hit us up on Facebook, and we'll help you guys any way we can. We have, if I don't know something, which is quite likely, there's somebody in the coalition who knows it, who's probably come up, who's probably run into it before. And so we're all helping each other out here. It's like the grant thing. We kind of ran into a wall there, and we found somebody that had done it. And so, boom, we just got right through, and problems got solved. Did you have a question, sir? Okay. Oh, card? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. There we go. Anybody else? If you have any other questions, I'll hang around for a bit, and if not, you can hit me up by email. I'm really easy to find. And Texas Church Security Coalition is pretty easy to find on Facebook, so Thank you for your hospitality today, and God bless you.
Amen. Thank y'all for coming. One thing I did, and I'm being attacked on. Mary Lou, when y'all post, people reading stuff on Facebook and attacking me. What I'm trying to, I just got through all the way the young lady outside talking about you. So see, I'm not two-faced. What Rudolph will say in here, Rudolph will say out there. The only thing I'm trying to do, don't know about, I'm walking now, because see, I just got attacked on the outside. And the only reason I'm putting this together is to inform our people. Okay, when I asked, did you have somebody else to talk on the other side, nobody's name came to me. Nobody's name came to me. And now all of a sudden, we sitting there saying it's both sides of it. Okay, you should have gave another name. Mary Lou, you didn't, beg pardon? No, did you call me and ask me to volunteer? No, that's online. I don't read all that stuff online. Mary Lou, you have my number. Let's close in prayer. Go ahead. She's a candidate. I'm sorry, love. Just introduce yourself, love.
And I'll close us out.